Hello, and welcome to the Beginner's Guide to Downward Facing Dog. If you're anything like me and so many people I know, we feel confused about downward facing dog from time to time or even every day. And one of the reasons for that is that as your body changes from doing yoga, maybe it opens up, maybe you get stronger, your downward dog shifts as well. So downward dog is not a one-size-fits-all situation, even for us throughout our practice. So that can be confusing if you're a beginner. I'm hoping that I can give you some guidelines to get you started and have some sense of how to do downward dog on your own at home. And here is Leslie. She's my model today to show you the yoga downward dog don'ts and the yoga downward dog do's. So, Leslie, come onto your hands and knees here. Tuck your toes under and come into downward facing dog. Here she is in a good-looking downward-facing dog. Some of the things that we look for are balance, length, strength, and connection to the earth. So she's been practicing for a while, and you can see that her hands are firmly grounded. She's got long side seams going up to the sitting bones, and then her legs are reaching down. Her heels aren't touching the floor, which is perfectly fine, but they're extending down. And this is a lot of work. Let's break this down and see how she got here. Leslie, you can bring your knees to the floor and have a seat in Vajrasana. Good. And bring the hands up like this. And for those of you at home, you can take one finger and you can follow with me and trace the perimeter of your palm, just feeling the shape of your own hand. And then you can go the other way. This is not something that you normally do, but part of our practice is getting to know ourselves better. And then touch the finger pad, the top finger pad of each finger, and really pay attention to that sensation. This is one of the things we're doing in yoga also, is getting a little bit more sensitive when we connect to our bodies. Let's do the other hand. Feel the perimeter of your palm, all the little nooks and crannies of your personal hand, and go the other way. It might be different than the other hand. I'm sure it will be different than the other hand. And then the pads of your fingers. Baby finger, ring finger, middle finger, index finger, and the thumb. Good. Leslie's going to bring her hands to the floor now, just on hands and knees. And she's thinking about pressing into that perimeter of the palm just the way you traced. That same place where we touched is going to be what reaches down into the earth. And also underneath her fingers and her amazing manicure. And so that's a good way to distribute the weight so that you take weight out of your wrists. There's a little sense of lift in the middle of your palm, and everything else is pressing down where we touched. Good. From here, tuck your toes under and come into downward dog again. And we can take a look at her feet. You can see that her inner and outer heels are reaching down, but she's thinking of her ankles lifting up. So there's a lot of work in the hands and the feet, and that's where you start. And that grows up into your down dog. Now we're going to show you the downward dog don't. So Leslie, can you take your hands way forward here? That's it. And then sink. Yes. So this might look like a good idea, but actually, eventually, this is going to injure you or could injure you. She's sinking too much. It's almost like a hammock. I hope you can see that. And this part of her arm is curling down. So there's no support here. It kind of feels good maybe if you're tight in your shoulders, but over time you can overstretch. The reason this is happening is her hands and her feet are too far from each other. So now walk your hands back a little bit, please. And then walk your feet in a little bit. And keep going and keep going, keep going, and about there. Right. So sometimes people think, I'm supposed to have my heels down. And then what happens is the hands and feet get too close together. And as you can see on Leslie, it's making her pelvis curl under. And that is closing off this area of the back. And on her, the front of that, the belly, is getting congested. And we want to create space between the hips and the ribs. So go ahead and walk your feet back into where you feel like you've got a good downward facing dog. Voila! Her hands are pressing down and the under part of the arms are working. So she's not in that hammock situation in the shoulders or in her back. There's a nice length here. Her legs are active, so she's lifting, yes, her seat, her pelvis up off her ribs. The legs are reaching down, but they don't have to touch the ground. And this is really a beneficial pose. It makes a lot of space in your torso for all the organs inside your torso to function. And she can breathe, she's getting strong and flexible at the same time. It's an amazing pose if you can find the right way. Try at home your own yoga don'ts. Find your middle path downward dog. Maybe you can do it in front of a mirror. And keep working with it every day. It's going to change a little bit every day. And that's why it's a practice. Good luck. Namaste.